You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So at what point do you think that you might need to have, like, I don't know if there's such a concept as a personal intervention. Is there? Like, is that a thing? Because usually it's an external intervention, but I'm wondering.
I have personal interventions for myself all the time.
Okay, well, I might be needing one because I just can't seem to stop getting t-shirts. And I've got my new one on today that I just ordered. So
the
nice.
Smiths.
The Smiths.
Nice.
Yeah, the Queen is Dead US tour, which also came with another two other t-shirts in the order I made. And
What?
I know. It's a
How
problem.
many t-shirts do you have, approximately, do you think?
50? Is that too many? That's
a lot. Like, are some of them like archived, or are they all in current rotation?
Oh, no, not a lot of them. Like I go to a lot of metal shows and they're not good t-shirts. I like the images I can't wear out. And also they're that really rough Gildan, which is a very popular t-shirt or the Fruit of the Loom ones. So they're very scratchy and not particularly flattering.
But so what is your plan for, like, what are you doing with them if you're not wearing them?
I don't know. I really don't know. That's why I'm saying I think it might need some. I mean, you know how many striped shirts I have, which is an insane amount, and I keep going by Muji, and they keep having this 3 striped t-shirts for $35.
That's all they do.
Yes.
They're just gonna supply you with like 10 different kind of striped t-shirts every season,
and I have them
forever.
all. I have green stripes, I have red stripes, I have black, I have blue. Like I can't stop.
I mean, I think it's useful, but I probably would, like, the way that I do these sort of personal particularly shopping interventions, I check myself frequently. And I will leave stuff in a cart for like a day or 2 days. And if I really need it, I'll come back to it. And then
that's a good idea.
That is a good idea. See, I have a hard time getting rid of t-shirts because if there was a Seinfeld where he had this one t-shirt and he kept calling it Golden Boy. And it was his oldest shirt and he was waiting for it to die, right? And Elaine says to him, well, maybe you should just stop putting it in the dryer. And he went, no. Golden Boy needs to go through it. Golden Boy can't be excused the rough treatment that I will put him through. And I have t-shirts, some of them that really have no business staying with me because they're so awful. But I can't. I have a Charlotte Gainsborough t-shirt that I got at a concert. What was that, like 10 years ago, maybe?
Well, have you I mean, you're pretty, like, you don't have a lot of clutter in your home.
I don't.
And so
where are all these t-shirts?
Well, that's like, maybe this is just the area of clutter that you have. Like, this is the clutter, and you can fold up t-shirts so small.
You can.
You can. I mean, the thing that I would suggest is, like, of the t-shirts that you can literally just no longer wear, if there's a salvageable portion of it that is like cool looking, like turning it into art.
Oh. Yeah,
I would like frame that stuff and like,
or like things. If I was the kind of person that made quilts or something, you mean? Like,
yeah, I've heard of that before.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely see something like that, but I don't know. Even as much as we're all looking forward to getting back concerts to see live music, I'm looking forward to merch tables because I'm going.
No, you just want to add to this total.
I will add.
You should do like a no. Like from now on, you should, when you go back, you should have like a 1 in, 1 out policy.
I am going to count them. So next week I'll have an absolute total.
I think though, like, yeah, but when you're at the next merch table you go to, think about the shirt you'll have to get rid of because you're buying a new shirt. That's what I think.
Well, but some of them are to, like, okay, I have, 3 Iron Maiden shirts from 3 different tours. You wouldn't suggest for me to get rid of one of those.
What are you keeping it for? I don't understand. Do you look at your t-shirts? Like, do you
Sometimes
pull them out and look at them? And
well, yeah, because sometimes
nostalgia washes over you
the
from
cupboard.
the
Yes,
show?
of course, the cupboard gets kind of full, and I got to pull everything out, and I've got to reorganize, and that's when I go through them all and I look at them, and yeah, I do have memories of the shows that I was at, and they're good memories. And sometimes I forgot I went to that show. If I didn't have the T-shirt, I wouldn't remember.
You could keep the ticket stubs instead.
I have ticket stubs too, from some shows. Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's just lots of things that you can decide either are not a problem or are a problem, and that and I'm not trying to be like say that insensitively. I'm just saying like if your T-shirt problem isn't actually like a real problem, like it's okay. You don't have to make it a problem. Like you can just be like, I am the person who might end up with 300 T-shirts by the time I'm 80, and they will just have told a story, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like everyone's got a thing,
right?
That's okay.
There's some T-shirts like I can't wear out of the house, like Slayer shirts. Like they're just not. There's no way that's going out of the house because people will see them, and it's. I remember even very distinctly going to the merch table, and I was like, the guy's like, well, which one do you want? And I went, I'm not sure yet. And he just looked at me like, oh, which particularly gross shirt are you trying to decide between? And I'm like, you work here? Like, how are you?
But hold on. I'm not familiar with Slayer, paraphernalia. Like, why is it awful? Like, is it just violent imagery?
Yeah.
Is it, okay.
Yeah. It's violent imagery. I mean, some of the shirts I have not bought because they're so horrible. But I really wanted to buy. I mean, we can't swear on this podcast, but when I went to see Johnny Marr, I ended up buying a shirt that just says Johnny Marr. It's fine. But there was a great shirt that said Johnny Effin Marr on it, right? But I thought, where can I wear that? As much fun as that is, because I agree with him on that statement. That's my Smith shirt. But I decided not to buy it, and I regret it because I think it would have been quite a statement somewhere, and I don't know where that is. But
wow. I decided like a long time ago that if a shirt wasn't like very comfortable, I was not gonna like it, and I felt like I was gonna wear it. Like when it came to T-shirts, I would not buy it. Therefore, I have like probably under 10 T-shirts.
You're a strong person.
But hold on. How many jumpsuits do you have?
Oh,
I probably have 10 jumpsuits. So.
Wow. See, I have no jumpsuits.
All I'm saying is I think I mean, honestly, at least clothes are functional. Not to
justify my habit.
No, yeah, but I just think of all the other things that I know various different folks collect, and a lot of them have been related to me throughout my life. And you can see this ridiculous wall of books behind me. It's probably too many books, and owning books isn't a personality, as we all know. And but I still love them, and I still want them there because.
You know what kind of cured? I used to be a collector of things, and what cured me is that we moved to Maine for a year and only drove there with what we could fit in our tiny hatchback.
That makes
and
it
amounted to 2 suitcases of things. And I lived for an entire year with only 2 suitcases of things from home. We put everything else in store, in our basement. And we bought a few essentials along the way. But after a year, we came back and I realized I had no idea what was in storage. I just didn't need that stuff anymore. I had lived fine without it. And I couldn't even remember what was in all those boxes.
I do try to imagine myself moving into a senior's home and bringing all those T-shirts and how ridiculous that would be. But at the same time, I also imagine, would my children want these shirts? No, absolutely not. 100%. They will not be wanting any of these things that I have been collecting. But I even made you buy me a shirt at an event, which I still have, and I still wear that Princess Leia shirt you gave me for Christmas. So
I mean, sometimes I enable people and their shirt problems.
Oh, now we see the real problem.
I will note that. So the Princess Leia shirt I gave you, good, slam dunk, glad you wear it. There was a different shirt I bought both of you a couple of years ago that was for a fundraiser for
I
women's
still have
health.
that one.
And I can imagine neither of you wear them out of the house, or maybe have never put them on. But
I wear them under things.
Yeah, sure, exactly. I just, at least clothes are functional and useful, and they, I don't. Did I tell you guys that I found out that maybe? So there are only like, I don't know, 10 storage units in our whole apartment building. We've lived in this building for 11 years. When we moved in, we said, yeah, we'd like to be on the list. We're now at the number 1 spot on the list.
To get a storage locker?
Yeah, in our building.
How big are they?
I don't know. Anything is good though. Like I'll take 6 by 3. Like it's even if it's just like a stack that's vertical. Like we live in, you've both been in my apartment. Like it's not the biggest apartment in the world, and we have 0 storage within our apartment ultimately, and too much stuff. And we've slowly gotten rid of stuff over the years, but we always have someone living in our spare room, and like it's not really the idea that we might have a storage locker to put some stuff in has, honestly,
everyone can look forward to this moment on the podcast when you come in and you just say it happened. And
when I let you guys
everyone
know
will know what you mean by it happened.
God, what a time. What a time. I'm so excited.
I'm excited. I am excited. There's no natural segue from that to
there is actually, because
packing
like
for a trip.
Packing and leaving home and moving on and getting rid of stuff you don't need, and then it turns out you need everything, and damn it, you shouldn't have gotten rid of all the stuff in the store because you're just gonna keep the store, and it's like a real journey.
Nice.
Wow,
you
that's
figured
good.
it out. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks, friends. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And this is Pop This in the Heights.
In the Heights.
We're doing a modern movie.
I know.
A contemporary movie. A contemporary musical.
That is
proper
clearly a musical.
Clearly a musical.
Clearly
a musical. And I am going to point out that I did not make the suggestion to add this. Andrea Gin, our resident musical hater, was like, hey,
but who knows
this?
what a musical is?
Has been
I will point
everything
out.
has been leading to this moment is what
This
you're really
moment.
saying.
Like,
yeah.
Yes.
Oddly, I understand what a musical is.
And hold on, I just want to also say, when I then said, I emailed back on this little email thread of ours, said, okay, should we bump something or should we just add it on? We decided to just add it on. So it is no longer just 2 months of musicals and music movies. We're getting an extra couple weeks.
We are. And and
Bonus.
it's worthy. It's worthy. It's summertime now where everyone's happy and singing. I mean,
Oh my God, this movie is so summer.
all I do is spend my days walking around the street trying to find a way that I could, wiggle my way into a dance number, in the middle of a block.
Well, it just feels like this is like a game-changing musical a little bit, and we just couldn't really ignore it coming out
No.
during our musical series.
I think it's the right call. I'm so glad we added it in, and let's just jump in. I'm going to tell us a little bit about the background. So, In the Heights is a 2021 American musical drama film based on the stage musical of the same name by Chiara Allegria Hudes and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Directed by John M. Chu, Crazy Rich Asians. From a screenplay by Hudes, the film stars Anthony Ramos, Corey Hawkins, Leslie Grace, Melissa Barrera, Olga Merides, Daphne Rubin Vega, Gregory Diaz IV. The film follows a similar plot to the musical, telling the story of a corner in the Washington Heights neighborhood of Upper Manhattan in New York City, where each member of the community pursues their dream of a better life. Conceived and written by Miranda while he was still in college, the show was based loosely on people and events from his own life.
And I will read the synopsis. So, unfolding over the course of the hottest days of a torrid Upper Manhattan summer, the story of In the Heights isn't particularly new. It involves the complicated love affair of two couples. Usnavi and Vanessa, a would-be fashion designer, played with focused self-assurance by Melissa Barrera, and Benny and Nina, an off-license taxi dispatch and a returning Stanford student, played by Corey Hawkins and Leslie Grace. The nail salon where Vanessa works is being priced out of the neighborhood, with her boss, Daniela, played by the sublime Daphne Rubin Vega, packing up for the Bronx. Meanwhile, Usnavi, who runs a corner bodega, is nursing dreams of returning to the Dominican Republic, where he wants to take over his family's beachfront bar. And that is from Anne Hornaday from the Washington Post.
So I have to ask, have either of you, first I'm going to ask, have either of you seen In the Heights before?
No.
No.
Okay, I have. It was a production that was local and was too many white people doing accents.
Oh dear.
So I'm gonna just put that out there.
But we should just be clear though, Lin-Manuel Miranda, this was the first musical he wrote. He wrote it before Hamilton.
Yes,
yeah, he wrote it when he was in college, and and based it on people he'd seen and stories he knew.
It's like semi-autobiographical.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. And it blew up. Like it wasn't as big as Hamilton, but like it was still a pretty big deal when it made its debut. And then Hamilton obviously came and like just whoosh, everything exploded for him.
But you've seen both of them.
Yes.
Are they Lisa, have you seen any Hamilton?
No, I have not.
productions?
I mean, I've seen bits and pieces, but I have not seen the musical, no.
Neither have I.
So I've seen In the Heights on like a touring production, local, or not like a touring production, a local production. And this is my first time sort of like, I think, seeing it in any way akin to like how Lin-Manuel Miranda would have imagined it. And then In the Heights, we saw a touring production, an official touring production in Seattle. And then I think like the weekend that it dropped on Disney Plus last year, we were, or whenever it was, I think it was last year, we were like on top of it. And yeah, it was great. But that's like an actual filmed, it's not really like a movie adaptation. It's like a filmed production of the Broadway show.
Right.
So this is a complete sort of like actual like proper Hollywood adaptation of it.
Right.
But yeah, I was really excited to see it. And like there are some things that I didn't love, but particularly after watching a chorus line last week that was so flat and static and dull.
Sad.
And
sad.
Oof.
This is so vibrant and just like it moves with like just this shimmer and this like zeal and joy, and I really appreciated John Chu's direction of this.
I know.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was very long though, just to give people it's like 2.5 hours.
I mean, that's the standard length of a Broadway musical. They didn't cut anything. Like,
they did not.
Yeah.
No. I can
Also,
imagine.
I mean, it had 15 songs in it, which I just found like I'm a person who notices a lot of songs, as we know.
4 is perfect.
But these songs all were like, I didn't notice, like, it didn't seem like 2.5 hours, and it didn't seem like a lot of songs to me. Like the whole thing just flowed, and I was just enjoying it so much. I didn't even notice like how long it was at all.
Well, they tell you when you start it. Maybe they shouldn't. Like it comes up at the end on your screen, and and when I see 2.5 hours, I'm like, okay, that's serious. That's a serious time commitment. Sorry.
Well, honestly, like Vegas musicals are all 90 minutes with no intermission. They cut down, like they make a sort of a cut down version for Vegas of any show that tours there. That might be very appealing to you. I have found that appealing when I've seen stuff in Vegas that's like Phantom of the Opera has some real sags. And when you see a zippy 90-minute production of Phantom in Vegas,
awesome. Jesus Christ Superstar, I think needs to be, because it's, you can't really miss certain aspects of that story.
Oh, I will pretty much take the Vegas version of any musical. Except for this one.
Yeah, I think that, wasn't like I could imagine what I would have cut. It's just, I think people should know 2.5 hours. And I don't think everybody goes to Broadway musicals. Miss Broadway musical.
Trust me, I'm so excited when a musical is 2.5 hours and not 3 or 3.5, or it's no music and it's just a play and it's like 3+ hours long. Tom Stoppard, I'm looking at you. I don't got that time.
Yeah, no, that's I don't do well after 9. Like I fall asleep. I mean, I have fallen asleep.
You could see a matinee. You could.
I could. I've fallen asleep. I've told you I fell asleep in a show sold out at the Commodore. I just went and sat down and slept through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was loud and there were people.
Wow.
Yeah, I slept through the whole thing.
I have done that as well. And particularly when I used to do like 3 events in an evening after working all day, and like I'd make Carlos come join me. He was, especially when we'd be at the Fox, he was always in the corner because we'd always get there to make sure we got the corner so that he could just prop himself up and like nap through like 50% of the show.
And I have a complete inability to sleep in public ever. Period.
Oh,
I can't do it.
I wish I had that. Jeepers.
It seems too scary because like you just.
It is.
Like,
it's
very
not like I
vulnerable.
want to do it. I've slept in so many movies.
But that fear keeps me awake.
Well, I'm going to work on that then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, like we'll address all of our fear sleeping and non-fear sleeping later. Let's go back to In the Heights because like it was just so yeah. So I'd love to know, like, I mean, well, AG, I am so pleased that you have found a musical that works for you and that you can appreciate the songs like that, because that is it feels good when you're not being tortured, right?
Well, especially because these are all new songs. Like, it's the first time I've heard any of these songs, and it was just like none of them dragged I thought all of them were like really great songs. All the choreography was amazing. The direction of this movie just blew my mind. Like the
way it looked was really beautiful,
or just like the inventiveness of some of those scenes.
The dancing on the side of the building, were you thinking?
Yeah, exactly. And just like using the manholes and stuff like that. And
for scratching, I did like the manholes for scratching. That's great.
Yeah, and it just seems like a musical that I will go back and rewatch, and just to pick up on things that I missed the first time around.
Well, this is quite a conversion that I never expected this.
I love it. So Lisa, what did you enjoy about it?
Well, as a romantic lover of romantic stories, I love that. I love that tension, that will they, won't they? But of course, you know they will. I love the idea. I really do love the idea of that this torturous relationship with this place you're in, that strangely you're already there because you and your family were already displaced from somewhere else, and you put your roots down, but you can outgrow it. And I think that is such a great theme, and I don't think I'll ever get bored of seeing that theme explored in different stories, because I think even if you that this story is particular to people from the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba, but everyone relates. I think if you've got family that came from somewhere else. I mean, I was the abuelo, spoilers here, just the song she's singing just before she dies. It was really hard because I thought she looked so much like my grandmother, and my grandmother was the exact same way. You just went over to the house all the time. Everyone did for dinners, and she died in her sleep too. And so I was just the story she was telling, and my grandmother, talked a lot about leaving Denmark and knowing she would never ever go back, knowing that when she said goodbye to everyone, she would never see them again. And I remember looking at her, and I was just thought, I couldn't bear that. I just couldn't bear that. Like but you did that. And so I feel like this is a story that, even though it had, it was very, very, factual about this certain group of people and who they are, I also felt there was so much to relate to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add, I found that idea that like Usnavi is thinking about going back to the Dominican Republic. Like, even though his parents like moved to America to give him a better life, this idea that America's maybe not what he wants, and he wants like a quiet, simple life on the beach, in the Dominican Republic. That I found that super interesting to me, because I have seen that amongst, like Asian Canadians that I know, like this kind of longing to maybe return to, where their parents are from, because, and for, like for various reasons, like just to learn more about, your heritage, or,
Well, they
you
bring
know,
you up here with so much of the things that they did back home, right?
yeah. And it's obviously like a very surprising to parents to have children that want to return to, their homeland and where they came from. So I found that whole part of the story like very kind of moving and fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked the idea, like, we get this idea, like Usnavi keeps saying it was the happiest time of his life, but it's because he was 8 and he had a dad and he had this other thing, and he hasn't he's got roots here, but he hasn't made a family of his own, like, and I think that that's really what he's got like sort of the broader family in a sense, but he knows that he loves Vanessa, and he knows that he wants all these different things, and he sort of has maybe like really built up what that place was to him as a child, so that he doesn't have to look at his life right now and be dissatisfied. And I think Lin-Manuel Miranda like does a lot of that sort of, he's contemplated a lot about what satisfaction looks like when you are the child of immigrants, and when you are people of color, and when you are in communities that are sort of like marginalized, and like particularly with New York and like in Washington Heights, hearing from people who had never really ever like on the subway ever left like or gone above like 42nd Street or something, like that's like there's real sort of like divisions in New York City that are wild once you visited it, because like you're actually like, oh, this is like such a small place geographically, like compared to Vancouver, like you can walk New York in a day, and like it's a long walk, but it's not the hardest thing in the world. But there's just so many barriers and boundaries, and so I thought In the Heights did such a beautiful job of sort of I don't know, conveying that, and like understanding why Vanessa might be searching for something different downtown as like a promised land, and why Usnavi might be like thinking of his home as a promised land, and then just sort of making some tough like realizations about what that really means.
I also really liked the theme of that it's the women that keep this whole thing going. Without all of these women, these are these strong women that are holding all of these lives together, and these men that know that, that they know that it's these women. And I felt like that was one thing I also really liked about it. All the women in this story were so powerful. And, even when they were questioning things, they still knew at the end of the day, they had some inner fire. And everyone had dreams in there, but I really felt this was like a very feminine movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a real like powerful sort of like matriarchy kind of movie, like where just particularly because I think like the live production that I saw of In the Heights, the women in the barber shop or the women in the beauty shop became kind of they're written powerfully, but you can perform them as if they're stereotypes.
Yes.
Or if they're cliches. And I've seen that on stage, and that is not at all what's happening in this movie. Like that beauty shop and all of the people there are so vital. Like even, and I know like I can't even remember what her character's name is, but she's Claudia's girlfriend. Or sorry, not Claudia. She is Daniela's girlfriend. She's played by Stephanie Beatriz, who is from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah.
And I thought her performance was so subtle and delightful, and she kind of like almost steals every scene she's in, because she's doing that thing that we've seen a couple times, like oh my gosh, like with Amanda Seyfried's role in Mean Girls. Like she just has like some lines that she delivers in a certain way that are so funny. And there's another movie we just saw recently that I was rolling off the chair laughing at like the line deliveries of this like one person. Anyway, and I thought it was just so great to see like not only a main lead cast be very good, but a supporting cast be incredible as well.
No, there were no weak links in this story at all. There were no moments where you were, oh, this is, feeling awkward, or this could have been done better. I didn't feel that at all.
No, and I also thought the music was so good. And I liked how, they incorporated sort of like appropriate types of music into it. And because how we had this conversation a few weeks ago about Dreamgirls and how they needed to use some kind of like Motown music.
Yeah, rather
maybe
than
for that
big Broadway show.
Yeah, and so here we're hearing like hip hop and salsa and merengue and like soul music, and it's all like mixed together, and it's just like it seems it's so good, and it's appropriate for the type of story they're telling.
How intimidating to go to a club, though. I mean,
those dance. Oh my god! Like just every dance sequence in this show, like in this movie, is flawless.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh my god, the choreography is incredible, and like whether it's the opening number or it's the pool scene or it's the like the nightclub, even the woman that Usnavi is trying to like use to make Vanessa jealous, and how she like just sort of fight dances him basically.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I just, oh my god, so good.
No, and it makes sense too, because I know that in musicals, dance is, there's always going to be dancers in every musical, but in this musical, that dancing is actually organic, because we know this is the kind of dancing that you would find in a club.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. An incredible club.
Yeah, well.
That I would not be admitted to, probably.
I'd be standing in the corner, like, can I just do the Carlton dance for you? I know how to do it really, really well.
Yeah, I'd be doing like just a bunch of shoulder shakes. Yeah. And like,
you go do your thing. You just have a good time. I'll just be over here.
Exactly. I don't mind dancing in a corner watching better people dance than me. I'm fine with
that.
No,
that's amazing. Yeah.
That's like a cheap night at the ballet or something, or like a flamenco dancing or whatever. Like it's
my
great.
friend dated a guy from Colombia who was a dance instructor, and he went to, and he's very, very handsome, and he went to try and teach me some dance moves, and he put his hand on the small of my back and drew my hips into his and I just went, I don't know what you're doing. And he said, well, this is just how we dance. And I went, well, that's not how I dance. And this is, I can't do this like at all. And he was like, oh, well, this is what we do all night in clubs, like all night long. And I'm going, honest to gosh, if you did like, I could not feel. He kept saying, loosen up. And I'm like, I can't. You're very handsome and you're pushing your groin into me.
For those of you listening, we can see Lisa blushing as she's talking about this.
And also the eye contact was happening too. Like he was, how, like that it's like you really melding into each other. And I'm like, I am very not comfortable and cannot do this.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like intense eye contact, intimacy, when it's like just sort of like not your normal experience.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
think
he
it really takes a
explained
bit to
it.
get into.
He explained that premarital sex was like really frowned upon. Not that it didn't happen, he said, but it was
Sure.
quite frowned upon. So you got all of that out dancing. And then I tried
Makes
to
sense to
explain to
me.
him, in my culture,
We
premarital
have-
sex is not even a name. It's not even, we don't even call it that.
Yeah, we have a lot of pregos well before marriage.
Yeah,
And,
so
did
no
you
one's
lead with
even-
that? Like,
I just tried to explain to him, like, this feels like sex, okay? I'm just telling you right now. Like,
yeah,
we're having
like,
sex.
My mom was 8 months pregnant when she got married to my dad, so
But
that's
yeah,
all I know.
There we go. Yeah.
No, I've also just never like just dancing was not like a familial thing, a community thing, a cultural thing in my family. Like we just didn't. It's
No
not
one
like
breaks
we were
out
like.
into dance at a dinner. Like that's not
Well,
happening.
it wasn't like a footloose like no one can dance in this town, but like because I grew up in Vancouver, but like it just I think we lacked community, I think, in my family ultimately. So just like we probably could have gone to other dances and like participated in all kinds of different things, but like that just wasn't what we did in the 80s. Yeah.
Well, that was another theme of this musical that really resonated with me is that idea of the family that got together for dinners and that community and how like those kids are so young, like they're just college age, but they already know that they're going to miss this family and community once they kind of leave the heights. And because, like for me personally too, like my family is Chinese from South Africa, and the time like in the 70s and 80s there's like a small community of Chinese South Africans in Vancouver, and like we used to have like family dinners and extended family dinners with them on the regular, and I knew like all their kids, and like it's something that I really miss because like I don't have that in my life anymore as an adult, is like having this like network of like family friends who all congregate in at someone's like a different house like
and that's
every
a big
time.
that
And
was same with my family. I mean, a big smorgasbord would, you would start at noon and you wouldn't finish until 9. You would just keep eating and drinking and eating and drinking until all the food was gone. And yeah, I miss that so much. It was just, that, and that was our immediate, there were like, 8 of us in our, or 10, in the sort of immediate family, but they died. So, that's how it moves on. Sorry. What else can I say? They didn't move.
That's
They
fine.
didn't move. They died.
It was the way that you said they died. There was like a tiny, like sort of like almost like just like a really matter of fact Kermit the Frog kind of approach was just, and I really liked the delivery. That was incredible.
but like for me it's just the same thing. It's like the kids just grew up, right? And they they move, they start families of their own, and it's not a community anymore.
I guess like in this movie though, they replicate sort of like a larger family because it's a bunch of people who have had folks pass away, who are missing pillars in their families. And so then they come together to sort of create something. I mean, yes, it's because it's written this way, but like, I think this is the way a lot of sort of, people sort of maybe celebrate things now. And I think, I don't know, the pandemic, I think, was one of those like really kind of a really wild thing that showed us so much how like we still very much privilege like familial families over sort of like chosen families a lot of times. Like you could have like one household, or if you were like under 2 people, you could bubble with another. But like if you had to, like if you have to make a choice out of the 8 people you spend all your time with, and now you can only have 2, like that's a real difficult decision.
Yeah, I wonder
to
how
make.
everyone in the Heights fared through the pandemic there. That
I can't,
because Abuela this wasn't her, like she didn't have any kids of her own.
No,
and so this whole family was
just like a grandma, a figure
for the neighborhood, and they would all eat there and go there. Well, he lived there, but But yeah, that idea that no one's going to be left alone here. We're not.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like that's one of the things that's so moving about it. I mean, I remember when the like, obviously I saw not a very good production of In the Heights, but like even that production when Abuela dies, like,
Oh.
Obviously I'm a real grandma's girl, as it were. And so I am devastated by literally almost every fictional depiction of a grandmother dying. But like, so devastating. And this movie did such a beautiful job of showcasing her journey, and it was so smart to have it happening on like in subway cars and on subway tracks and like or like in subway stations and like moving in and out of different spaces. And like so the final tunnel that she's in, that's like full of that graffiti, that is an actual subway, like that's an actual subway stop in the Heights.
Wow.
And it's so cool. Like we went there, not the last time we were in New York, but maybe the second last time. And because we were going to Rue on Rue, the Rue McClanahan Golden Girls restaurant.
Wow.
And it was in the Heights, but it was part of that gentrification. It was like this guy, he got some cheap real estate that he could rent, and he opened up this shop. And but there were like a bunch of people that had already become regulars and stuff, and so we went. But I remember like coming out, like it was the most beautiful subway stop I'd ever seen, because it was just like this like kind of cool hall of like wall to wall graffiti, and it was amazing.
That was a really moving, beautiful scene too, and I also loved the fact that as much as I was really sad, she was laying there looking at all of those people, and looking at them and seeing them all in her home and knowing that they were all so happy and that she was able to bring them together.
Yeah.
So it was so beautiful. And it was an interesting, like that line about how she didn't want to take her medication. That was very interesting. Like I didn't.
Yeah. I feel like that was a little bit glossed over in the movie, but I think because like she just didn't want to, maybe she's so busy taking care of other people,
yes,
that she doesn't take care of herself. And I think like that's sort of what the underlying thing there is, which is why like she could have changed her life dramatically, but she saves this winning lottery ticket for a Snavi after she dies. Like, and also like those things expire, so if you're saving a lottery ticket to give to someone, they expire after a year. Cash it.
Wow.
Really?
News you can use in the middle of this podcast. Thank you.
Wow, I didn't know that.
No.
Yep, they expire. So don't sit on those millions or 96,000s, whatever you got lying around your house. Cash those in.
But they also had a very, I think, even though I was relating to a lot of it in that sort of immigrant story, there were very specific stories, to the immigrant situation and not being accepted, and that lottery ticket is going to help someone try to become an American citizen.
Yeah, with Sonny and his like dreamer status. And, even
the fact that it's called, like, there were some great play on words that way, like that when you read the synopsis, we were saying it's dreamers, right there, that's what they're called, is dreamers. And I also thought when The Power was out, when they went with that song Powerless, you feel powerless. That was very, and to use that darkness as a metaphor for how they all feel about not knowing what's going to happen to them, what's going to happen to this neighborhood. Very clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We should talk about how there's been some criticism leveled at the musical for not sort of being fully representative of the Heights, the community, and the Afro Latinos were kind of left out in casting.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a criticism that has been leveled at Lin-Manuel Miranda before, and you would think that he would learn, which to me makes it much more deliberate, and therefore like much less forgivable. You know what I mean? Like he has apologized for like the privileging of light-skinned Latinos in the Heights. But like, this is not new criticism for him, and he continues to do it. And I get very because I really do like him. I think he's so talented, and I like that he's really dorky and cares about music. And did I watch like a video of him and oh my god, that guy from SNL? He has a talk show, Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, I watched them do their big like Broadway's Coming Back thing, and they had a whole like musical number, and it was featuring Jimmy Smits, and it's so good. Anyway, and I love that he does this kind of stuff, but I get so frustrated that he like really just kind of glosses over this repeated and valid critiques from like Afro-Latino people about colorism, and I don't know. I feel like he really needs to spend some time really like reflecting on this.
It's interesting no one checked him on it, though. Like, you can go through this entire process and put the movie out, and then people are surprised. Like, not at some point. It does show you that the problem's not just his.
No, it's like systemic absence of, darker skinned Black people in positions of power in Hollywood for sure. But like, it really, like, it's something that like you can see immediately. Like he specifically chooses not to, and that's such a choice, and it's very telling on himself. And I just think that he can do better, and he has kind of like an ethical responsibility too.
Well, I found it interesting too. Like we were talking about, it was directed by John M. Chu, who directed Crazy Rich Asians, and there were some sort of criticisms leveled at Crazy Rich Asians as well along these same lines. And at the time, I remember thinking, like, they're casting Asians who are kind of Hollywood beautiful, and like that's it. Like that's we want to see, like, we don't need to see like just Asian versions of like the traditional Hollywood star. Like, we want to see different kinds of Asian faces on screen. And I think that maybe like that happened with this film as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like, I mean, I think it's really, there have been some really well-written pieces, and I think that we can link to some of them in our show notes, because I think everyone should like check them out if they can. Yeah. Because it doesn't mean that we didn't love In the Heights, but I think that these are really valid critiques that we need to think about, particularly as like, particularly like, I'm a white woman. Lisa, you're a white woman. Andrea, I suppose, yes, like you have like lighter skin privilege. I don't want to say that specifically because I think that that's for you to say, but like in the scheme of this conversation.
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah, like that's a thing in the Chinese community, very much so. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So I just think it's important that we're like aware about it and talking about it and hopefully changing it.
Yeah. But so the other thing to talk about too is that it had a pretty disappointing opening weekend at the box office. And just
by
like
box office, you mean like only playing in like a very select number of theaters? And I mean, isn't it?
No, like the theaters in the States are like fully open.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know that.
And so it only grossed $11.4 million over the opening weekend. And that was considered to be very poor because according to Variety, the movie has to gross around $200 million in order to be considered a financial success.
I really think that these are such kind of specific times. Like, even though the theaters are open in the States, they haven't been widely open for that long. I think pandemic behaviors have changed things for people.
What about online? Because renting it was rather dear.
Yeah, it was $25 to rent it. Like,
yeah. And so I wondered, is that factored into that 11 million?
I don't think it was, but I think like they do, because there's no way of really counting like how many more subscribers, the streaming channel got or whatever.
But you can't watch it on the streaming channel just yet. You can only rent it, right? Through iTunes or something else, right?
Yeah, like you have HBO Max in the States, but not here in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's stick with 11 million because that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I
mean,
think like A Quiet Place 2, for instance, yeah.
Very, very, very different experiences. Holy cow. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I saw A Quiet Place, the first one, and I don't know if I want to go back to that one again. But if you do, that's a very specific journey rather than, say, a big, giant Hollywood musical.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's like a few different factors. Like,
I'm just looking it up.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
A Quiet Place 2 passed $100 million.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. This last
on
weekend.
its opening, and that's just its opening weekend?
No, it says like it passed 100 million in like last weekend.
Wow.
In gross.
Okay.
earnings.
Okay. Wow. I mean, I think there's there's several different factors probably that are here. Like there's, racism, because this is very specifically a Latinx movie, and it's very specifically telling certain stories, and I think that plays into things sometimes, and that we, can't ignore it because it's still a racist world. I think pandemic stuff is gonna factor into it. I would assume that musicals are not necessarily always box office draws, except at Christmas. I know that every Christmas they want to have a big musical that pops up, but I don't know
not
if
like this. This
a
is so
summer
hot in the
musical.
summer. Yeah.
I think, by the way, like Steven Spielberg is doing a West Side Story.
He's doing West Side Story for sure.
In December. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I feel like, I don't know. I feel like this has had a couple of different, just a couple different barriers to success.
Mm-hmm.
Some like that are external, and some that are just like the genre in general. And people still have like this thing about like, I mean, I know Hamilton was wildly successful, so I get that. This is not Hamilton. Like it does feature hip hop, and it does feature sort of more traditional Broadway numbers and like larger scale numbers, but like Hamilton, like I think if you're a fan of Hamilton, you're not necessarily automatically going to be a fan of In the Heights.
No, I can see them being vastly, vastly different.
Yeah,
but it's a shame because this is an absolutely, like, if you really want to lift your spirits, this is absolutely the way to do it. Yeah.
Like what? Like people, I want people to see it. I really do.
Yes, I do too.
Like,
I agree.
Well, I mean, there's some just conversation around how people don't, like, there's such a people only want to see franchise movies when they go to a movie theater. And, like that being part of it as well. Like they don't want to sort of take a chance on some unknown entity.
Not that Lin-Manuel Miranda is unknown, but...
Well, they took a chance on like The Quiet Place the first time, which is how they ended up with like The Quiet Place 2. So like I understand franchises do have a built-in audience, so they have like they're leveled up for success. Like I'm not disputing that at all, but like it's I think it's like yeah, I guess I'm not disputing that franchises are like going to have another level of success, but I do think people still want to see new stuff. Like,
as I finish this podcast and go and watch Loki on Disney Plus, but
yeah, fair point. We love to leave our episodes also on other things we recommend. AG, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm recommending a docuseries on Netflix called High on the Hog.
I watched. Yeah, that's good.
How African American cuisine transformed America. It's hosted by Stephen Satterfield, who's a chef and writer, and it's based on a book by Jessica B. Harris. And it's basically about how American cuisine would not exist as we know it today without the contributions of African Americans. It's a history show, it's a travel show, it's a food show, like all rolled into one. And I think there's only 4 episodes. And I learned so much, and it was very moving, and you just meet all these people and like find out about all these chefs that kind of had an impact on American cuisine that you just never knew about before. And so I highly recommend everybody watch it because it's very fascinating.
Awesome. That sounds great. Lisa, what about you? What do you recommend?
Yeah, so as I've been telling people, I like to walk my neighborhood and go into the little libraries. And I was very excited to find this book here that I'd never heard of called Everything is Under Control, a memoir with recipes by Phyllis Grant. And it's a really beautiful book about how this woman gets into becoming a chef. But it's told in like little snippets of almost like poetry, like just little passages of her life, little memories, and it's really amazing, and I'm super enjoying it, and it has a really sweet little cover too, I have to say.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you can find this book, it is wonderful.
That's great. That's fantastic. I am going to recommend something that I meant to read ages ago and hadn't, but it's giving me like some nice. Sometimes I go through phases where I don't feel like listening to podcasts because I listen to too much true crime podcast and I actually want to listen to something funny. And I do listen to comedy podcasts as well, but like sometimes I just need a specific thing. And so I'm finally listening to the audiobook of Lindy West's S Word, actually. And it's all of her like film writing. And she does some really great cultural essays about films, and she has a very specific rating system, and it's just really fun to just listen to her rage about some films that sometimes deserve it and sometimes don't. And
she doesn't like Love Actually.
She does a brilliant takedown of Love Actually, 100%. I laughed so hard when she said that she had heard from people who have made this their annual Christmas tradition is to read her Love Actually critique aloud as a family.
We need to incorporate that into our
Yes, we do.
Annual podcast. Hold on a second. Did AW just drop out?
Her face is frozen and she's not saying anything, and she's I think
she just texted me that her Wi-Fi completely died.
Okay then. I guess with no Wi-Fi, that means no Andrea Warner to end the podcast.
She wants us to please mention that Mark Anthony needs to win an Oscar for his performance.
And agreed. We'll do our best to lobby for him. And well, I guess we'll just sign off, just the two of us.
Yeah, I don't even know how to sign off because I never do that part.
I never do that part either. I just thank you. So I guess we're on Twitter.
We're supposed to tell people to give us 5 stars.
5 stars on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can send us an email if you have any suggestions. Mm-hmm. Pop This Collective, I think our email is.
Yeah, at gmail.com.
Yeah, gmail.com. And we are also on Twitter, and we'd love to hear from you. And we've enjoyed being here. And Andrea Gin has had a major life event, and we're really pleased that you were here to see it. So thank you.
You mean finding a musical that I liked?
Yes. This was a moment for everyone, not just all of us, just us 3. It was for everyone. So thanks for being our producer, for having such open mind to musicals, and
Thanks for taking me on this journey. I never thought I'd get here, but so thank you.
All right, we'll see everyone next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.